Brentford boss Thomas Frank will be confirmed as the new Tottenham Hotspur manager in the next couple of days. TalkSport have stated that Spurs hold genuine interest in Manchester City and England star Jack Grealish. Bissouma has shown messages that he has exchanged with former boss Ange Postecoglou. Sky Sports have stated that Spurs are interested in Bournemouth star Antoine Semenyo. And will Tottenham Hotspur hijack the Mbeumo deal? Will he be on his way to Old Trafford or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. This is another episode of Tottenham News, where I'll be going through all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do the follow button and leave a review if you can. Now, before I get started with the Tottenham news, I'd just like to say a big thank you to every single one of you who listens to this channel on a regular basis, because the Spurs Chat podcast and Tottenham news have made it into the charts for being one of the most listened to football podcasts this week. Number 3 in Ireland, number 4 in Norway, number 5 in the UK, which is our best ever position in the UK charts. Number 7 in Singapore and number 7 in Sweden. So a big thank you to you all. So let's start by talking about Thomas Frank. Now, Italian journalist and transfer expert Fabrizio Romano has stated that Tottenham are closing in on Thomas Frank. The agreement is almost done. Here we go is coming soon, and there is not going to be a problem. Fabrizio Romano has stated that Thomas Frank will become the next Spurs manager in the next couple of days. The contract will be signed this week. Green light from the manager. The Times newspaper have just stated that Spurs will confirm Thomas Frank in the next 48 hours, and Donny Iriola didn't want to move to Spurs. He wanted to stay at Bournemouth. The Times have also stated that Roberto De Zerbi did not want to move from Marseille, and then it was between Marco Silva of Fulham and Thomas Frank of Brentford. Fabrizio Romano has also stated it is a matter of short time and formal steps, and then Thomas Frank will sign as the new head coach. The Times newspaper has stated it was actually Johan Lange who has been leading the search for Tottenham's new manager, and Daniel Levy likes Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank and Johan Lange have worked together before. BBC Sport and The Athletic have stated that Thomas Frank will sign as Tottenham's new manager in the next 48 hours. And The Times have also stated the Danish Premier League boss wants to bring in at least 2 staff with him to Tottenham. TalkSport have stated final discussions taking place over backroom staff. And the Daily Mail have stated that Tottenham will have to pay Brentford a £10 million release clause. Various reports are stating that Saudi club Al Hilal are interested in signing Tottenham Hotspur captain Heung-min Son this summer. Reports in Spain are stating that Tottenham has set a price tag of 70 million euros for defender Christian Romero, as the Argentina centre-back is determined to leave the club this summer. Atletico Madrid are chasing him. He is one of the only players to have not come out and said anything on social media about Ange Postecoglou's sacking, despite posting other things on social media over the weekend. Fabrizio Romano has stated that Brian Mbeumo is waiting for Manchester United as a priority. Thomas Frank is close to Spurs, so we will see what happens if he joins. But Mbeumo at the moment is waiting to see what happens with Manchester United. And the Daily Mail have just reported that a hijack from Tottenham's point of view, hijacking the Manchester United deal for Mbeumo, is highly unlikely. The Boot Room have just reported that Thomas Frank wanted guarantees about how Tottenham Hotspur Football Club would operate with him in charge at the club. Frank will not have the final say on every deal, but he wanted to be a part of the process, and Spurs have agreed this. TalkSport have just reported that Spurs and Everton have genuine interest in Jack Grealish. There is also interest from Newcastle, but it is believed that the Magpies will not be putting in any bids this coming summer. TalkSport have also stated that Matisse Tell is expected to remain at Tottenham. Sky Sports have just reported that Tottenham have now stepped up their interest in Antoine Semenyo of Bournemouth. The forward scored 11 Premier League goals in 37 Premier League games last season. He has been at Bournemouth for 3 seasons. He has scored a total of 20 Premier League goals in 81 Premier League appearances. There is also interest from Manchester United, and he is also on the list of Liverpool. Spurs midfielder Yves Bissouma has shared some WhatsApp messages between him and former boss Ange Postecoglou. Postecoglou said, "Hi Biss, sorry I missed your call. I'm very proud of you. It was an honour to share a dressing room with you and appreciate how much you believed in what we were trying to achieve. I wish you only the best for the future. I will always be following. Much love from my family to yours." Bissouma then responded to Postecoglou and said, "Thank you Gaffer, and thank you very much for everything you did for me on and off the pitch. I will always be grateful. The way that you believed in me and trusted in me was incredible. I'm going to miss you, but in football life, a lot has to be said, but I think you know what I'm thinking about already, so I'm just wishing you all the best for the future, and may God protect you and your family. Big boss, love." And then Ange Postecoglou replied, "Always by your side, Biss." Former Tottenham Hotspur scout Mick Brown has been talking to the Football Insider all about Thomas Frank and Johan Langer. He has stated Thomas Frank, he has done very well at Brentford and they have been impressed with what he's done there. I've worked with Johan Langer at Aston Villa and I know he's got a good relationship with Thomas Frank and they are good friends. He is pushing for him to be appointed and he is keen to work with him at Tottenham. So they'll be taking what he says into account and it will be a big boost to his chances. That is always a good start for any manager, having close relationships with any kind of staff. It helps ease them in and get his ideas across, in that case in the transfer market, because there are some improvements which need to be made at Spurs. So he will have an ally already in a good position at Tottenham and then he can build on that. The Daily Mail have just stated that Wrexham want to sign Ben Davies despite Tottenham exercising their option to extend the defender's contract by 12 months at the weekend. Davies recently saw his contract extended until June 2026, which means Wrexham would likely need to pay Spurs a modest transfer fee to land him this summer. Tottenham's willingness to let Ben Davies leave could depend on whether or not they are successful in their attempts to sign Everton defender Jarrad Branthwaite. Now for an update on Tottenham Hotspur players currently on international duty. Pedro Porro's Spain lost out on a penalty shootout as Portugal lost the UEFA Nations League title in Sunday's final in Munich. The defender was named amongst the substitutes and came on for extra time as it ended 2-2 in normal time. Ronaldo with the equaliser for Portugal. The scoreline stayed 2-2, so the final went to spot kicks. Portugal converted their first 4. Costa then saved from Morata, leaving Neves to slot home the winner. Brennan Johnson completed a memorable season with another memorable goal, but this time it wasn't to be as Wales were beaten 4-3 by Belgium in a thriller in the World Cup qualifying campaign on Monday evening. Brennan, our UEFA Europa League final match winner in Bilbao, was joined in the lineup by Ben Davies, wearing the captain's armband again, and this time starting at left back as the hosts raced into a 3-0 lead inside half an hour in Brussels. Harry Wilson gave Wales hope from the penalty spot deep into added time at the end of the first half before Bellamy's men turned the game around in the second half. Brennan was involved in the move finished by Thomas for 3-2 on 51 minutes before planting home a header from 10 yards from Thomas's cross for 3-3 with 69 minutes on the clock. Lukaku then had a goal chalked off by VAR, but with the finishing line in sight, Tielemans crossed for Kevin De Bruyne to volley home the winner from close range, 88 minutes on the clock. The result leaves Wales second behind current leaders North Macedonia in Group J, with Belgium 3 points adrift, having played 2 games less. Meanwhile, Destiny Udogie was an unused sub as Italy beat Moldova. Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode. Let's start by talking about Thomas Frank, because it looks like Thomas Frank is going to be confirmed as the new Tottenham Hotspur manager in the next couple of days. Certainly this week, Fabrizio Romano has stated nothing is going to go wrong. This is a done deal. This is happening. The manager has given the green light and the clubs are in contact about the compensation. Even Thomas Frank has come out and said that he wants to bring a couple of backroom staff with him. And I think that is great. The manager should always bring staff with them, and they should always be involved in the process of bringing in new players for their squad. I think it really helps as well the fact that he knows Johan Lange and they are good friends already. For Thomas Frank to be walking into Spurs and having that contact, having that friendly face there, someone you're going to talk to every single day, because even Postecoglou said that he spoke to Johan most days as well. This transfer window for Spurs is extremely important. Every single report I've seen, every single journalist I've spoke to about Thomas Frank, they have nothing but really, really good and positive things to say about him, not only as a person, but as a football manager. The way that he can change games, the way that he can change formations, the way that he can get the best out of players. And I tell you what, everything I'm reading, everything I'm hearing, and everything I'm watching is very, very positive about Thomas Frank. So this could be a really good move for Spurs. But of course, all the Spurs fans will always think about how a manager is going to be backed in a transfer window. And, I've said before, I feel like the board have put a little bit more pressure on themselves because they want the manager and, the team to be fighting on all fronts. Well, they will have to give the manager the tools to do exactly that, because we want to be competing in the FA Cup, the League Cup. We've got to improve that league position. And of course, we want to go far and really compete in that Champions League. So there's a lot of work to do. And I might add that, this first part of the transfer window could be done and dusted already before a managerial appointment is actually made at Spurs, i.e. Thomas Frank, because the window actually closes on Tuesday, the 10th of June, 7 p.m. and then it will reopen on Monday the 16th of June, and then it will be open until Monday the 1st of September, 7 p.m. So there's a lot of work to do, but as I said, I think that Thomas Frank knowing and being good friends with Johan Lange will certainly help us, and it looks like Fabio Prasci is coming back as well, so he will get involved and get his black book out and start the process of signing players and getting that ball rolling and, signing reinforcements for this squad, making it, a lot deeper in terms of, strength and depth. So looking forward to that. But I do like the fact, I've said on previous episodes, when Ange Postecoglou went out the door on Friday, I've said, is there a plan in place? And I hope that things do move quickly. Well, this is quick enough. And this is positive news, that the fact that we will have a manager this week sometime. I think there's still a few things to just iron out in terms of compensation, how many backroom staff, etc. But Fabrizio Romano and some very, very other, reliable journalists have said, this is a done deal. So looking forward to that. And let's go on to talk about Christian Romero. Apparently, Spurs have set a price of 70 million euros. I would have thought it would have been a lot more for Romero. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Romero leave. It is very, very interesting how so many players have sent messages publicly to Ange Postecoglou. I know some people will probably say, well, they don't need to do it publicly, but this is what they do nowadays, and particularly how all of the other team members have done it so publicly, including, a very public showing of WhatsApp messages between Yves Bissouma and Ange Postecoglou. Will the club be happy with that? Will Ange Postecoglou even be happy with Yves Bissouma sharing those messages online? I like to see these types of things because, it shows that these people are very human. And that's a saying that Ange Postecoglou used to use a lot. These players are human. They're not robots. So it's nice to see that relationship. And it's interesting because Ange said, "Hi, Biss, sorry I missed your call." Well, why didn't he ring him back? He sent him a message instead. But, lovely messages being exchanged between our former manager and the players. But, I think it is a little bit surprising that Christian Romero hasn't said anything publicly on social media, particularly how he has posted other things on social media, just not about Postecoglou leaving. International duty, of course, Pedro Porro lost out on penalties in the Nations League final. Brennan Johnson on the score sheet yet again. Ben Davies captaining Wales yet again. Reports out stating that Ben Davies could leave for Wrexham. That's going to be an interesting situation, whether Ben Davies will actually want to go home to sign for Wrexham, and Spurs get a fee for him. I suppose it does depend what Spurs do in the transfer market. Lots of rumours and reports out at the moment about what players Spurs are interested in, etc. Jack Grealish, apparently Spurs have genuine interest in him, as well as Everton. Would I like to see Jack Grealish in a Spurs shirt? I would, actually, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from that by a lot of the viewers and listeners, but I feel like he's got a lot to offer, and I think I said it in a previous episode, I feel like he is the type of player that is born to play for a club like Spurs. I feel like the club would, the fans would absolutely love him and adore him, because he's got so much more in him still to offer, and we haven't seen that for quite a time under Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. Spurs are also being linked with Semenyo of Bournemouth. Had a good season last year. Was a real handful in that final third, so that's going to be interesting because the likes of Manchester United and Liverpool are also interested. And Mbeumo, what will happen with him? Will Spurs choose to pay him big wages, which we haven't seen that very often or at all? In previous windows, Spurs going out paying big wages to players, and unfortunately, a lot of these players do chase the money rather than the want and the need to be wanting to play Champions League football rather than not playing Champions League football. But it might be his dream to sign for a club like Manchester United. But does he want to play Champions League football, and can Spurs come together with a really good offer in terms of bonuses, etc., to get this deal over the line? And it may even sway his decision if Thomas Frank does sign. Mbeumo might want to, work with Thomas Frank again at Spurs. Maybe a thing of he wants to stay in London. There's all of these factors. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I feel like sometimes that, one decision then dominoes into other decisions that other people make. So it'd be interesting. But yeah, a lot of news going on at the moment, and I know that I've put a lot of updates out. So as I've said before, and I know some people get a little bit aggy saying, you're putting so much content out. Someone had a go earlier and said, you're putting all these posts out, you're putting this out, you're putting that out. Just wait until it's all confirmed. I think if I waited until it was confirmed, you'll probably have one video in a couple of days' time, and then I'll see you in August. But if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But what I would say is if you do think I'm putting out too much content and you don't like all of the speculation, because I know there are people like that, they hate the speculation, they hate all the transfer rumours, etc., then I would say just come back when the season starts. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please hit the follow button and leave a review if you can. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.